I never believed in ghosts, spirits, demons, the whole supernatural thing. It was always background noise to me, like static on an old TV. Nothing real, just good for jokes, especially on a night like that. It started as a road trip. Just me, Jake, and Nolan. 3 friends, half a tank of gas, and nowhere to be. We'd just finished our last final of the semester, and the freedom hit like a shot of adrenaline. It was past midnight when Jake cranked the volume and yelled, "Let's make some bad decisions!" The night air rolled in through the windows. The roads were mostly empty, the sky painted with a spray of stars, and the headlights cut a pale tunnel through the dark. We weren't headed anywhere in particular, just driving with the kind of energy you only get when you're young and dumb and convinced nothing can touch you. That's when Nolan brought it up. "You ever think about ghosts?" he asked, with that lazy half-smile of his. "Like, if they're real?" Jake snorted. "Ghosts? Man, please. The only spirit I believe in comes in a bottle." "Come on," I said. "You telling me if a little girl in a white dress showed up right now in the middle of the road, you wouldn't scream like a toddler?" Jake cracked up. "Nah, I'd ask if she needed an Uber." We went off after that, mocking every horror cliché we could think of. Seances, cursed dolls, haunted mirrors. Nolan even tried doing a fake chant from the back seat. "Spirits of the dead, if you're here, give us a sign." He said it with so much drama that we all lost it laughing. But Jake took it one step further. He saw a dirt road coming up, unmarked, just past a crooked old tree that looked like it belonged in a Tim Burton movie. He slowed down, eyes gleaming. "You guys want to summon some spirits for real?" "Bro," Nolan said, "you trying to get us killed by a tractor?" But Jake was already turning. The road groaned beneath the tires like it hadn't seen life in decades. Tree branches arched overhead, thick enough to block out the moon. We were still laughing, nervous, giddy laughter as Jake kept driving. The car jostled with every bump. Nolan was in the back, chanting fake Latin, and I was pretending to bless the vehicle with an imaginary crucifix. No one noticed the fog at first. It rolled in slow, creeping between the trees like smoke from a dying fire. And then, the music glitched. Just a little. A hiccup. The radio, which had been blasting old-school rock, suddenly skipped, like a CD scratched down the middle. A voice came through for a second, just a whisper layered beneath the music. But it was gone before anyone really caught it. We were too busy laughing, too busy tempting something we didn't believe was listening. And maybe, just maybe, it was. I remember the moment we left behind anything familiar. The dirt road had seemed like a joke at first, just a detour for laughs. But every second deeper into those woods felt like we were unraveling something that should have stayed untouched. The trees got denser, taller. Branches reached overhead, locking out the stars like a canopy of claws. The road narrowed, the gravel crunching softer beneath the tires until it was barely more than a path. I glanced at my phone. No bars, no GPS, just a blank screen, like we'd driven out of reality. "Dude, where are we?" Nolan muttered from the back. He wasn't laughing anymore. Jake squinted ahead. "Just keeping the vibes creepy," he joked, but his voice had lost the edge of cockiness. It was quiet. Too quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the car jolted. A screech, high and metallic, like metal grinding against metal. Jake slammed the brakes. The headlights flickered once, and stayed on. We'd stopped. In front of us, a rusted iron gate, its bars bent and clawed by time. Vines choked the fence. Beyond it, under a soft spill of moonlight, stood an old cemetery. The graves were uneven and scattered, stone crosses leaning like they'd been drunk for decades. A dead tree stood in the center, split in two like lightning had torn it open. Nobody spoke for a second. A wind swept through, cold and sharp. It sliced through the broken corner of the passenger window and sent a chill down my spine. Andrew, always the one to break tension, whispered, "The spirits heard us." We all chuckled, nervous, forced laughter. But none of us moved. The car was dead. Phones weren't working. The forest behind us had swallowed the road whole. I wanted to say we should turn around, that maybe it was time to go home. But deep down, I already knew. We weren't going anywhere. The silence after the car stalled was heavier than I expected. You know how silence in the woods usually has this hum? A background noise of wind, bugs, rustling leaves? This had none of that. It was like something had sucked the air out of the world. Jake tried the ignition again. Nothing. The engine clicked like it was trying but didn't really want to help us. "Battery?" I asked. "Battery's fine," Jake mumbled, tapping the dash like it owed him money. That's when I saw it. Just past the rusted gate, deep in the cemetery, something moved. A flicker of shape, low to the ground. It wasn't an animal. Too upright, too still. I leaned forward, squinted. "Guys, do you see someone out there?" Nolan turned to look. "Where?" "There, between the third and fourth rows of stones, by the crooked tree." They both looked. Nothing. But I swear, I saw it. A small figure, still as a shadow, watching. Jake chuckled nervously. "Okay, Logan, don't start that haunted kid crap now." Then we heard it. Whispers. Not like wind in the trees whispers. These were real, close. At first it sounded like static, but then words began forming. Faint, overlapping phrases, spoken in voices that sounded both old and childlike, like someone remembering a lullaby underwater. Nolan froze. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," Jake said, his voice tightening. "Okay, I'm checking the hood. Might be a loose cable." He opened the door, and as soon as he stepped out, the whispers stopped. Cut off, like a switch was flipped. We watched him pop the hood and lean in. His body cast a crooked shadow in the car's headlights. Then he vanished. Not disappeared, just out of sight for a second. He moved behind the hood, and the light didn't reach him. I waited for him to say something, call out what he found, but it was too quiet for too long. "Jake?" Nolan called. The driver's door creaked open. Jake slid back in. He was pale, really pale. "I saw a kid," he said quietly, "behind one of the gravestones, just standing there." "Did they say anything?" I asked. He looked at me. No joke in his eyes this time. "They didn't have a mouth." That's when the whispers came back. Only now, they were louder. And they were saying our names. We should have stayed in the car. The whispers outside were getting louder, circling us like vultures with secrets. But sitting still didn't feel like an option anymore. Not when Jake was pale and shaking. Not when something outside knew our names. "We need to find help," Jake said, eyes locked on the gate. "A house, a road, anything." I don't know why I agreed. Maybe it was the creeping feeling that staying still would only invite something worse. Maybe it was denial. That stubborn human instinct that says, "No, this isn't real. Let's prove it." So we opened the car doors. The forest air was colder than it should have been. Dead leaves crunched underfoot as we stepped toward the cemetery. The iron gate groaned as we pushed it open. Rust flaked off in our hands. The second we crossed through, the wind picked up behind us, and the gate slammed shut with a violent clang. We all jumped. Jake spun around and tried to open it again. Locked. Solid. "I didn't touch it," he muttered. "I didn't fucking touch it." We turned toward the graveyard. It was worse up close. The graves weren't right. Some were cracked open, as if something had clawed its way out. Others looked fresh. Fresh dirt. Freshly shoveled. Too fresh. We moved cautiously between the headstones. Names were faded. Dates lost to time. But one caught my eye. "Jake," I said. He stepped beside me. The gravestone in front of us was clean, unweathered, white marble. It had Jake's full name on it, his exact birth date. And today's date listed under died. Jake staggered back, muttering, No, that's not funny. That's not..." His hand trembled as he reached out to touch the stone. Andrew suddenly gasped. Blood trickled from his nose. "What the hell?" he whispered, wiping at it with his sleeve. "I didn't hit anything. I didn't..." Then Nolan flinched, spinning around. "What?" I asked. He stared into the darkness behind him. "Someone just whispered my name, right next to my ear." There was no one there, but in that moment, it was clear. Something else was. Something watching. Something waiting. And the ground beneath our feet? It wasn't done moving. Panic does strange things to people. It makes the world smaller, sounds sharper. It turns shadows into threats and silence into screams. After we saw Jake's name on that gravestone, everything unraveled. Andrew was still bleeding from his nose, muttering that his head felt like it was splitting open. Nolan kept spinning in circles, convinced someone was whispering directly behind him every few seconds. Jake. Jake was just standing there, staring at the grave with his name, as if it had already started pulling him under. I tried to grab everyone's attention. "We need to move, we can't stay in one spot, this place isn't right." And that's when we made the mistake. We split up. It wasn't a conscious decision, just chaos. Nolan stumbled off toward the left, trying to find a way around the gate. Andrew panicked and bolted toward the far end, yelling something about seeing a light through the trees. Jake and I tried to chase after Andrew, but it was like the ground itself was rearranging around us. Every row of graves looked the same. The twisted tree in the middle seemed to be everywhere at once. Then it started. The hallucinations. At first, it was subtle. I heard my mom's voice, soft, distant, calling my name like she used to when I was little. But my mom's been gone 5 years. Jake stopped walking and stared ahead like he'd seen a ghost. "It's my sister," he whispered. "She drowned when we were kids. She's standing right there." I followed his gaze. Nothing was there. But Jake? He started crying. And then the shadows shifted. From between the gravestones, shapes emerged, tall and warped, like human silhouettes stretched and melted in the wrong direction. Their faces were smooth, no eyes, no mouths, just blank skin like wax. They moved slowly, gliding rather than walking. Their heads tilted unnaturally, twitching when we looked at them directly. "Andrew!" I yelled. "Nolan!" We ran. Somehow we found Andrew's path. Broken twigs, disturbed leaves, his footprints. We followed them around the corner of a cracked mausoleum and heard a scream. Andrew's. A hand reached out from behind the stone building. We caught just a glimpse. Andrew, being dragged by something tall, pale, with fingers far too long. He kicked, screamed, then silence. Gone. Jake grabbed my arm. "We have to leave. Now." We ran. We didn't look back. But the weird thing was, we kept ending up in the same spot. The tree, the broken statue, the same damn gravestone with Jake's name on it. Every turn, every path, looped us back. "This place, it's a trap," Jake whispered. And the spirits, those blank-faced figures, they were getting closer. We didn't speak. Not because we didn't want to, but because we couldn't. The cemetery had drained the words from our mouths like it drained the light from the sky. Only Jake and I were left now. Andrew was gone. Nolan too. We ran. Not with direction, just desperation. Past broken headstones, past the leaning crosses and the yawning graves, until the whispering behind us thinned, and the air grew strangely still. That's when we saw it. An old stone tomb at the edge of the cemetery, hidden behind a curtain of trees and wrapped in a fence of rusted iron thorns. The door was open. Inside, dim candlelight flickered. Jake looked at me. "Do we go in?" I didn't answer. I just stepped through the doorway. The air inside was heavy with dust and the scent of something old and sweet, like rotting flowers. The room was circular, the walls covered in faded carvings, names scratched into stone, most of them unreadable. But at the center, resting on a pedestal of bone-colored marble, was an ancient, leather-bound book. We approached it slowly. The candles hissed with every step. The book was open. On the page, names, written in a deep red ink. Andrew's name was there. We both saw it. But even as we stared, the letters began to fade, letter by letter, until it vanished completely. Jake leaned closer. Then we saw his name. It was glowing, not softly, not warmly, but bright, hot, pulsing red, like embers pressed against skin. And beneath it, the words appeared. 1 stays, 2 may leave. We didn't need to ask what it meant. The voice that spoke next came from nowhere. It was not loud, but it was undeniable, like it had always been there, waiting beneath everything. It whispered the phrase again. 1 stays, 2 may leave. I stepped back, shaking my head. Number, no, we're not doing this. We're leaving together. We find another way. Jake looked at me, really looked at me, and he smiled, just a little. A sad, quiet smile. You were always the smarter one, Logan, he said. But this time I'm making the call. I grabbed his arm. Jake! But he pulled away. The tomb began to rumble. The candle flames rose and whipped sideways. Outside, the whispers surged again. Dozens of voices, then hundreds, all calling for us. Jake turned to face the doorway. I'll hold them off, he said. You get out of here. Get back to the car. Don't stop. Don't look back. I didn't want to go. I screamed. I begged. But he shoved me hard, and I stumbled out the tomb's door. The last thing I saw, Jake standing in the archway. Arms out, facing them. The spirits. They were coming. I ran. Through fog. Through branches that clawed at my skin. I didn't know where I was going. But then, the car. Right where we left it. It started this time. Just like that. As if it had never died. The headlights flared. The engine roared. And I peeled out of that graveyard like the world was on fire behind me. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just drove. But even as the road unfolded ahead of me, I swear I could still hear the whispers. I don't remember how long I drove. The road just kept going, winding like it had no destination. The trees slowly thinned, and the fog that had clung to the windshield began to lift. And finally, dawn broke. It wasn't a bright sunrise, not the kind you see in movies. It was gray, muted, like the world was still mourning the night, but it was light, and that was enough. I pulled over on the shoulder of a 2-lane highway, breathless. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Jake was gone. Andrew was gone. Nolan was gone. I was the only one who made it out. Or at least, that's what I thought. I sat there until a pickup truck rolled by and slowed. A man inside, maybe late 50s, leaned over and called through the open passenger window. You okay? I didn't have the strength to lie. No, I said. I think I need help. He let me climb in. The seat was warm. The cab smelled like coffee and dust. We drove in silence for a while before he spoke again. You get lost out there? I nodded. Took a dirt road. Ended up near a cemetery. It was gated. Real old. We were just messing around and then the car died. My friends. I stopped. I couldn't say it. I couldn't say what I saw. He looked at me. Not confused. Not surprised. Just tired. There's no cemetery out that way anymore, he said. It was torn down about 40 years ago. I turned to him slowly. Number? That's not possible. It was there. We saw it. We walked through it. Jake. But he just kept driving. I stared ahead. My pulse started racing again. Something felt wrong. I turned to glance behind us. The back seat was empty. But then, just for a split second, I saw him. Jake. Sitting there, silently, watching me. His face was pale, blank, like the spirits in the cemetery. And when I blinked, he was gone. I still hear them sometimes. The whispers. Late at night, when the wind comes in through the window. They say my name. They never stopped. Because something followed me out. And I don't think it's ever letting go.